is the goal. The goal of discipleship. What does God want to achieve through discipleship? Number one, God wants us to be conformed to the image of Christ. That's number one. To be conformed to the image of Christ. Be conformed to the image of Christ. Romans chapter 8 verse 29. Romans 8:29. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. When we are conformed to the image of his Son, discipleship process is effective. But if you have a man in church, and the man has been in church for many years, he still looks like the world. When he talks, he's still talking like the people of the world. When he behaves in church, his behavior still looks like that. The way people will behave at the garage. He has not gone through discipleship. Discipleship transforms your character. You begin to be like Jesus. And it is a choice. You are the one that will submit yourself to be discipled. Every other disciple submitted to Jesus except Judas. Judas was pretending. When Jesus is praying and they are nodding their head, Judas will also be doing his own, wagging his head, as if he's also praying with them. But internally, there was no transformation. Who you are and the measure of your Christianity is who you are out after church. Somebody will say, oh, in a church you do no lie. People, we package ourselves, we compose ourselves, we maintain utmost decorum inside the four walls of the church. But after church, what is your neighbor's testimony about you? Your neighbors are the ones that will tell us whether you are born again. Your neighbors will tell us whether you are a Christian because they know you. The last time one of them took your bucket and you insulted your great-grandfather, they know. Bible says Jesus was led as a sheep to the slaughterhouse. He opened not his mouth. Your neighbors bear a good testimony about your Christian life. To be conformed to the image of Jesus, looking like him. Number two, the goal of discipleship, to carry God's life and his authority on earth. We should begin to see God's life manifesting in you, consciously or unconsciously. A Christian that is being discipled should be casting out demons, consciously or unconsciously. God's life and God's authority will be manifesting from you. Number three, goal of discipleship, to be God's ambassador on earth. A disciple of Jesus is an embassy himself. When God wants to visit the earth, God can come through him. The person's room, the person's house will be an embassy that God comes to lodge in. That means there is an atmosphere that is conducive for God to rest. He's an embassy. He's an ambassador. Number three, to take over the earth for Jesus. Taking over the earth. Number five, to demonstrate God's power also in the earth. That's the goal of discipleship. The goal of discipleship is not just training training for us to be able, to make heaven. It's training to dominate on earth. God's intention for Adam was not to make heaven. God's intention for Adam was that Adam will carry his authority on earth and subdue and dominate on earth and demonstrate the power of God, the authority of God, the glory of God on the earth. That was why God placed man in the garden. And the garden was in the earth. God wanted what is happening in the garden to fill the whole earth. That when Adam began to give birth, the children would be schooled in the culture of Eden. And that culture will begin to spread around the earth, from Jerusalem to Judea, Samaria, and on to the uttermost part of the earth. Maybe you are listening to me tonight. You have not surrendered yourself to be discipled. We can't see the visible manifestation of the life of Jesus in you. You can pray tonight. And one of the ways to do that is to go and look for a man. Every disciple must have a discipler. Every disciple must have a discipler. Sometimes what we call mentor. Sometimes what we call spiritual father. But these days, the concept of spiritual fatherhood is not really tending towards discipleship anymore. It's not tending towards discipleship anymore. Somebody will live in Auchi, he will say his spiritual father is Benny Hinn. And he doesn't have any contact with Benny Hinn. He can't call Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn will pick, they will talk. Benny Hinn can't give him instructions. No. For spiritual fatherhood, for mentorship, for discipleship, there must be contact with the discipler. There must. Jesus had contact with his disciples, and they were able to interact. There was a time one of them even put his head on Jesus' chest. They were that close. And for discipleship to be effective, the number of disciples should be few. So if you have 1 million sons in the Lord, there is a problem. The best thing to do at that point is to break them into groups. Some of the pastors you have raised in the ministry should now begin to take care of the concerns of others. Because you can't handle 1,000 people. Jesus chose only 12. Only. And among the 12 Jesus chose, one still slipped out of his hand. Judas. So for effective discipleship, you should not have many people you are discipling. And that's the reason why the cell system, house fellowship system, is perfect in every church. House fellowship. House fellowship leaders have been discipled. They go on to disciple others. Small groups. Small groups are effective. Thank God for mega churches where we come together, corporate worship, lifting up our hands, worshiping the Lord. But that's for church service. Discipleship, for discipleship to be effective, there must be contact. And the time spent in discipleship, you don't time yourself. You keep going on and on and on and on. Matthew chapter 5 from verse 1, Jesus saw the multitude, he climbed the mountaintop, and his disciples went to him. The Bible says he opened his mouth and he taught them. Many times Jesus spent more than 6 hours, more than 72 hours teaching his disciples. Sometimes he will go to the wilderness, a secluded place, where he can teach them properly. For discipleship to be effective, the group must be small and there must be contact with the discipler. So a young man growing up, thank God you like Benny Hinn, you like T.D. Jakes, you like Pastor E. Adeboye, but they are role models. You want to be like them one day. They are mere role models. They are not your disciples. They are not your mentor. They are not your spiritual father. They should know you. You can walk into his house anytime. So if you can't wake up and go to Chris Oyakhilom's house, there's a problem. Look for a man around you that can mold you, that can instruct you in the word. That's why churches have branches. You know, every April, every Christmas, Redeemed Church does what they call Let's Go A-Fishing. And they open new churches, put new pastors. And it's the vision of the Daddy Gio that there will be Redeemed Church after 1 kilometer, every 1 kilometer. Many people in the media misinterpreted that. They say, oh, he wants to have places where he can be collecting more money. That's evil thought. Evil thought. The reason why that man is creating that model is so that nobody will have an excuse that because the church is too far, I can't go. And to even forestall that, churches have now bought buses that convey people from their junctions, from their houses to the church. Where that is not in place, churches should be small enough for the pastor to know everybody. House fellowship should be small enough for the house fellowship leader to know everybody. If the house fellowship is becoming too big, split them into many groups. You must have raised disciples that will handle those concerns. And when we do that, we'll see the gospel spreading everywhere. That the knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ will cover everywhere as the waters covers the sea. Until the knowledge of the glory of the Lord take over the earth. As the water that covers the sea, until the knowledge of the glory of the Lord takes over the earth. As the waters, as the waters, as the water that covers the sea. Wherever you are, lift up your voice and begin to pray. Say, Lord, help me to locate my discipler. Help me locate my disciple. That I will be taught properly in your word. That I will be discipled properly. That my life will not be a loose life. I will not be a loose cannon. I will not be a wild beast that is not domesticated, having no use, just going about the wild, causing trouble everywhere. With my mouth shall I make it known, from the rising of the sun right until it's going down. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord. I will sing of the mercies my mouth shall I make it known. From the rising of the sun